All right, welcome back. College football season is officially over now with Ohio State beating Notre Dame in the college football national championship. Not happy, obviously, because I thought Notre Dame was going to possibly pull off the upset. And even at the end of the game, I thought they could maybe mount a comeback, but no. But yeah, no, what can you do? I mean, Big Ten reigns supreme again, 2 years in a row. What were you guys' first thoughts on the game? Just like right after the game, like what were you guys like thinking initially?
I thought Notre Dame put up a great fight. I mean, Ohio State and their $20 million roster, ultimately they prevailed. I thought Notre Dame was going to have a chance at the end to at least try and tie the game, try to send it to overtime. Because Ohio State's defense started playing nothing cheap, nothing deep, which means Notre Dame just kind of was able to pick Ohio State's defense apart because Ohio State was just wanting the clock to try to run out and the time of possession to last as long as possible. I was a little confused by Notre Dame going for a field goal. I don't know if you guys remember that. I think it was like 15-31 at the time was the score. They go for the field goal, they miss. I kind of wasn't in agreement with that decision, but that's not the decision that killed their chances to try to tie the game. The decision to leave Jeremiah Smith one-on-one at the end of the game, it was bizarre to me. For some reason, they decided to send in Gage 8. They just sent the house at Will Howard. And Will Howard, by the way, like we'll keep getting into it, but what a playoff run he had. I remember he was like 15 of 15 at one point in this game. And he saw Jeremiah Smith one-on-one. Jeremiah Smith was running that streak, and he threw it perfectly, and we left our DB on an island, and that's ultimately why Notre Dame did not get a chance to at least tie the game. But
and it's really fitting, too, that the game ends. Because I remember before the game, they were him and who was it? I think it was Leonard Moore. They were talking smack back and forth about, oh, yeah, if you're going to leave me man on man, nothing's going to happen, or it's going to be painful for you. And then Leonard Moore, he was like, oh, no, we're going to keep playing the same way we play, which is that man-to-man. Like, they rarely play zone. And then how fitting it ends on Jeremiah Smith sealing the game, sealing the natty with a 50-yard bomb. By far, probably the biggest play of the entire game. And obviously, his stat line, only 5 catches for 88 yards and a touchdown. But coming off of that one catch for 3 yards against Texas to now debatably being the player of the game for Ohio State. I mean, you can make the case for Will Howard and Quinshon Judkins, which I would lean towards more. But the most impactful player and the impact play, I would say, goes to Jeremiah Smith with that play. And it's just funny to me that how fitting that their smack talk before the game ends up deciding who wins the game, and it goes in Jeremiah Smith's favor.
And I can understand him talking smack. They're gonna play man to man. I can understand playing man to man because at least when you send only 4 to the quarterback, you're playing man to man with safeties over the top. That wasn't the case at the end of the game. It was just like they just chucked it down to Jeremiah Smith, and they just left him. He's the best receiver in the nation. Like, that's undeniable at this point. And that's you're leaving it in the hands of the best player. I feel like you should have taken Jeremiah Smith away for that play. Double team him, have safety help over the top at least, and they didn't do it. But your thoughts, Ryan?
Yeah, honestly, I feel like Will Howard, in my mind, was kind of the difference maker because I feel like this game, he used his legs a lot more than he had in previous games.
Oh, yeah.
And Notre Dame did not QB spy very well because I don't think they were expecting him to run the ball and carry it as much as he did. And that was what Ohio State was just able to convert every single time that Will Howard ran with the ball. And then when Notre Dame did QB spy, that gave Jeremiah Smith and Ibuka and their wide receivers more openings to go. So I think Will Howard just knowing when to carry the ball and when to throw the ball, I think that was huge on his part. So I think him getting the award for MVP at the end of the game, I think that's valid. I mean, there's obviously there's a few other players that could have deserved it as well. I mean, they all played really well, but I feel like Will Howard like Ethan said earlier, just how Will Howard has performed the entire playoffs and how consistent he's been. It has to be recognized. I mean, 17 for 21 for passing, like that's insanely good. Like that's insanely accurate. And 231 yards, 2 touchdowns, like that's really good too. I mean, Notre Dame did put up a huge fight though. I mean, after that first drive, I thought it was going to be like nitty gritty. I was low-key worried about Riley Leonard. I'm not going to lie. Because
he had 9 carries that first drive. He had 9 carries on the first drive. And he's a quarterback. Like, that's insane for a running back. The fact that you have a quarterback going for 9 carries and then throwing up on the sideline after your opening drive, I mean, that's very concerning. I mean, don't take any credit away from Riley Leonard. I mean, he played great. I mean, he had essentially 300 total yards, 3 touchdowns. Like, he played really well, too. It's just it got out of hand too quick. And Notre Dame, like, they're so used to pounding the rock, playing that, like, hardcore, nitty-gritty football. And Ohio State, they are just down the field deep shots, like the prime Kansas City Chiefs, like they deep shot for deep shot with like Tyreek Hill. Same thing with Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Ibuka. And unfortunately, Notre Dame had to kind of play a different type of football that they don't typically play, and it ended up going Ohio State's way. But yeah,
and I think those injuries too on Notre Dame's defense was pretty impactful on that game. But I mean, Riley Leonard, he did play a really good game. I mean, obviously scoring on that first drive and throwing up. He had 17 carries the entire game for 40 yards and a touchdown, and he threw for 255 yards. So, I mean, he had a really good game, but I think it's just the decisions on defense, which I think is partially because apparently the defensive coordinator from Notre Dame is getting a deal finalized with the Cincinnati Bengals to be their defensive coordinator.
I just saw that.
And I know, like, in previous episodes, we had talked about how sometimes, like, if you're looking for another job, your mind is kind of in a different place. I'm wondering if that had, how much impact that had just going into the prep. Just, I mean, because if you're taking time to, like, apply for or just get another job and work out a deal, that's taking time away from your prep. For your defense. And I feel like that's kind of where most of the errors were for Notre Dame in that game.
Yep. I agree. I mean, it's almost like Notre Dame had to turn wear and tear off if they're playing college football, but the video game. But no, this was real life. I think after that first drive, it took everything out of Notre Dame and everything out of Riley Leonard, like mentally. And I mean, it was a great drive. It reminded me a lot of the Indiana football game versus Ohio State when IU went down on their opening possession and scored and went up 7-0. And I was like, in that game, oh, wow. Like, IU just punched Ohio State in the mouth. And then same thing, like Notre Dame converted multiple 3rd downs, 4th downs. Wow, they just punched Ohio State in the mouth. But then Ohio State, like Ethan's saying, they go down the field just like that. They have multiple receivers. They are going to take deep shots. They get down the field so much quicker. Their players aren't tired as much because they're not going down the field for 9 minutes, which was an insane number for Notre Dame, and it was impressive to pull off. But then all of a sudden your quarterback's tired and throwing up on the sideline, and Will Howard hasn't really broken a sweat yet because Jeremiah Smith is left one-on-one, and you just hit him in stride, hit him in the numbers. And I think, like you said, Ryan, if they had all their defensive players, this game could have been different. But ultimately, like, the play styles was the reason why Ohio State won.
Yeah, one's more like high flying and one's more like low key. Let's pound the rock. It's very clear where it kind of stopped for Notre Dame. Like, as soon as that first drive hit, it was done from there. I mean, like, when you see your leader throwing up after the first drive of a game, it's kind of like a bad sign at that point because it's like, oh, I'm already gassed. Nine rushes for my quarterback. That you don't want to stay with that because otherwise he would have been on pace for like 50 carries, and you cannot have that as a quarterback. But I like both of them played really well, and I'm curious because I mean I keep making like the NFL references because Ryan, what you were talking about with the defense coordinator, we see the same thing with the Lions. Both their coordinators, they both left, and you don't know, like, were they thinking about that and that's why they lost to Commanders in the divisional round with that upset? I mean, it's very interesting, and I think that's a good point. And with Tule, like Marcus Freeman, like he was rumored to become an NFL coach, I think, at some point, like
for the Bears.
Before Ben Johnson signed with him this year. So maybe he had other stuff going on. I don't know if that really had a major impact, but what I'm very interested in seeing especially where Will Howard gets drafted. Because I think coming into the playoffs, there was a lot there wasn't much noise for him, especially in the draft. Like, you would think he goes like undrafted, maybe even a late rounder. But now I kind of see him as a top 5 quarterback entering this draft. It may be a little bold, but I think he can handle the high pressure situations. He knows he knows his stuff. Like, he's good with vision, mobility. I mean, he showed it today in the Natty on
Monday.
On Monday. I mean, it really showed. I just don't know. Does having 3 amazing wide receivers and 2 amazing running backs next to him, that kind of scares me, because if you give him an offense that doesn't have those type of weapons in an NFL standpoint, will he perform the same way? I'm not sure, but I think Will Howard has done a great job getting his draft stock up, because from what I saw, he was going to go late day 3, maybe UDFA, to now potentially being a top 5 quarterback in this class.
No, and Pro Football Focus actually has Will Howard number 5. So you might be onto something there. I mean, listen, regular season Will Howard did not impress me at all. But the postseason, I think after the Michigan game, Ohio State realized, okay, let's throw the ball to then run it later on. And Will Howard, with the game plan that Chip Kelly put together, I mean, it was he had perfect throws.
Yeah, I mean, Chip Kelly deserves a lot of credit, because, I mean, and really that entire coaching staff, because after that Michigan game, they made a lot of adjustments.
Yep.
And they knew, like, they clearly did a lot of really good prep work going in, because they knew, I mean, I feel like for Ohio State, like, you play Tennessee and then you're guaranteed to play Oregon. So, like, in a way, you get, like, extra prep time if you play in that first game, because you're prepping for 2 teams, while also being able to, like, establish some momentum going into that second game. But yeah, no, they, like, talk about bouncing back from a completely devastating loss. Because, I mean, Michigan, like, this is probably the worst Michigan team we've seen in a while. Like, because the past, like, probably 5 years, at least 4 of those, they were in contention for, like, top 10 or playoff spots. This year, they weren't even ranked. They were 7-5. Like, it was just really bad. It was just not a normal Michigan year by their standards. But I'm a little worried. Like, I think after winning this Natty, I have a feeling that even though Michigan has brought in all these top recruits, like, they have the number 1 quarterback coming in, they have, like, I think they're still keeping a lot of their guys as well. Like, they're just recruiting really well also, like, with the freshman class. So I think that Ohio State-Michigan game is going to be an absolute spectacle next year, for sure. But yeah, no, I agree, like, with both of you, like, with what both of you guys were saying about Will Howard, like, being a steal in the draft. I think, like, just because, like you said, Joseph, like, I was not really impressed with Will Howard. Like, I thought he was kind of like Quinn Ewers a little bit, where, like, you get to the big game, like against Oregon, like, he got to that big game, made a pretty stupid decision, like, at the end, and that ended up costing them the game. And, like, kind of same thing with Michigan, like, he just wasn't playing well, and it was the game, like, it was the biggest moment before the playoff, and he just choked. And that was one of the reasons why, like, in the beginning of the playoffs, I had Ohio State losing to Tennessee, because I wasn't sure. I didn't think Will Howard was going to live up to that moment, and
No, me either.
And just bring it. But he more than brought it. He exceeded expectations for sure.
You know who kind of reminded me of like prime Joe Flacco, when Flacco took the Ravens to the Super Bowl and won it. And he went through Manning, he went through Brady, and then the Niners in the Super Bowl. Like, that's what it kind of reminded me of. I mean, his accuracy was great. I want to ask you guys something, because it feels a little weird that Ohio State won the championship, considering they lost to not a very good Michigan team, and they lost another game to Oregon. It just, like, if you're an Ohio State fan today, and I've been talking to some Ohio State fans, they don't even necessarily feel like they're happy they won the championship, but they do feel a little weird that they lost to their biggest rival and then also the national championship. It doesn't feel very college football-y to me. Like, usually dominant college football teams are like, last year's team, Michigan, they went undefeated, and it's like a clear number 1 team. I feel like this year there was a lot of different prospects and contenders, for the number one team in the nation. And although Ohio State did win it, I feel like it was the perfect storm of circumstances rather than them just being the best team. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I mean, your whole goal is the natty. So, I mean, I feel like no matter what, I mean, like hypothetically, if every FBS team made it and you go 0-12 and you win the natty, it doesn't matter about those regular season games. You win the natty. So I think you can go up and say that, oh, we lost to a rival who isn't really great. I mean, they're 6-5. They not performing. We host them and then we get absolutely killed. But we said a month ago too, like before the whole playoff started, they had the hardest road to the natty. I think when we looked at we saw Penn State, nice road. Notre Dame, they were debatable, but they also had a nice road. Texas with Clemson, ASU, they had a nice road. But Ohio State, they had Tennessee, Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, and then Notre Dame. That is crazy. So for me, I'm not worried about that Michigan game because you just played 4 straight weeks, all top 10 opponents, and you beat them by a combined 70 points.
Yeah.
Like, you don't see that often. Like, that is some, like, LSU, Joe Burrow type dominance we see. Like, I'm not saying that team would beat them at all, but I'm just saying the dominance that they showed through the last month, absolutely insane. So, I don't even care about the Michigan loss. They got the natty, so that's the main goal.
I like it.
And it saved a lot of people's jobs, especially Ryan Day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I agree, honestly, like, with like what you were saying, like you win the natty, you go up against and win against top 5 opponents in like every single one of your matchups. You have the hardest path to the championship out of all the teams. Like, it's not even, I don't even think it's debatable. I mean, maybe Notre Dame's would be debatable if Carson Beck was healthy.
Yeah.
Like, and also if maybe if they played IU at home, maybe. But I mean, still, like both of those teams really had the 2 hardest paths, I think, because Texas, they went through Clemson and Arizona State, but like they didn't really play too great in either of those games. I mean, they definitely played better in that first game against Clemson than they did against Arizona State, but like Texas was low-key lucky to make it where they were, like considering their path, like considering at least the outcomes of those games. But Penn State definitely had the easiest path, I think, out of the 4 paths for those semifinal teams. But yeah, no, I mean, like if I was I would just put that Michigan game in the review mirror, walk it. Like, honestly, if they beat Michigan next year with the since it's going to be at the Big House, not only plant your flag, but also bring the national championship out there with you, just the trophy.
Oh, yeah. And dude, the last 2 winners have been Michigan and Ohio State. So, I mean, this is like a prime stage of college football. Like, the 2 biggest brands, the 2 biggest rivals just won the natty back to back. Like, we're in such a great stage right now for college football. Another performance I want to talk about in this championship game was Jaden Greathouse for Notre Dame. The wide receiver. He turned into Jamar Chase last night or a couple nights ago, and 6 receptions, 128 yards, two touchdowns. I mean, there was a couple guys on Notre Dame's team that like really stood out to me in the end, that they kept fighting. I feel like a lot of other teams would have kind of just rolled over once Ohio State got up like 28-7.
I mean, like I said, like Notre Dame, they're so hard on the run game that you don't really see these wide receivers come into the light.
Yeah.
So when they had to break out of that, Greathouse played absolutely amazing. I mean, he didn't save the game, but he was able to keep them within range until Ohio State kicked the field goal and made it 2 possessions.
See that one-handed catch?
Yes, it was, and then that touchdown on that in route made a nice spin move.
Yeah,
but no, yeah, he played well. I'm just concerned, why didn't Jeremiah Love get the ball at all? I mean, I know the game kind of slipped out of their hands, but only 4 carries for 3 yards for one of the best running backs in the country. And then he had 6 total touches with 2 catches, 5 yards. So didn't really do much. Or he didn't do anything at all.
That must tell you that the injury was more than they were leading on. Was he wearing his brace? I didn't see. I thought he wasn't.
I don't think he was.
So that's very interesting to me. I don't know why they wouldn't give him the ball more. Also, the other running back, Darian Price, 3 carries, 13 yards. I mean, it's kind of weird because it's like they were only trying to establish the run with Riley Leonard. I don't know. Seems weird to me that they would put their quarterback through that.
Riley
They were
Leonard,
trying to get him killed, low key.
he had more rushing attempts in the first drive than the rest of his entire team did for the entire game. Like that's it. Like think about that's crazy. You have 9 as a quarterback on your first drive, and then for the rest of that other 55 to 50 minutes, they only have 8 combined rush attempts.
You can't be doing
It was
that.
more than twice the amount of rushing attempts were from Riley Leonard because he had 17 attempts, but the other attempts added up by Jadarian Price, Jeremiah Love, and Jordan Faison
Yeah.
was 8 total. So he did their workload plus 1 extra carry. Well, actually, their workload again plus an extra carry in addition to that.
Well,
and he's the quarterback.
And then did you guys see Steven Jelly, the backup, come in for a fake punt, and then they went out of the punt formation, and then they're clearly going for it. I don't know. That was confusing to me because you bring in the backup quarterback. Ohio State sees the backup quarterback coming in. They know. I mean, it was pretty obvious to me that they were faking it and getting in formation. They get in formation and then they throw it short of the sticks. I think it was 4th and 3. I don't know how you throw it short of the sticks on 4th and 3. I don't know. Little decisions like that is what separates these teams. Go ahead, Ryan.
I was gonna say I think he had it, but he dropped it as he was coming down to the ground. But if that, that could have changed the game for Notre Dame because they could have executed that play and then the offense would have had some positive momentum going forward and maybe scored an additional touchdown and 2-point conversion. But I mean, if you can't be the SEC and live in hypotheticals. That's not what we do here.
Definitely not. But if you're going for it, then you need to get your offense on the field. I don't know. That play was just, I did not like that play just as much as I didn't like us leaving Jeremiah Smith one-on-one. But yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, you have to go for it at some point.
I agree with going for it. I don't agree with sending your punting unit out on the field. Say, Steven Jelly, you haven't thrown a pass all night. I know he had some good passes against Penn State, but this is the national championship. You're relying on Riley Leonard the whole game, and now all of a sudden you're yeah, Steven Jelly, yeah, get out there. No, it makes no sense. I don't know.
I think as soon as they scored and then Ohio State answered, it was just a downhill for Notre Dame because once Ohio State gets going, you're not making a comeback at all. I mean, they are the high-flying offense of college football, and they put up 31 unanswered after Notre Dame's crazy first drive. I mean, I thought after that, all the momentum was going towards the Irish. I really did. Yeah. I mean, crazy first drive, and then Ohio State just 31 right back on them. 4 touchdowns, 1 field goal. It was absurd, and from there on out, it was just Notre Dame trying to claw back, and then Ohio State sealed the deal. But when you look at the rosters, and even just if you look at the box score, you can tell who has more weapons. I mean, the deviation or the divided amount of. I mean, okay, Ohio State had 41 rushing attempts, and Notre Dame had 26. 17 of those 26 was from the quarterback. And then 41, out of those 41, 23 were from running backs, and then 16 of them were from the quarterback, which nice even distribution. And then Quinshon Judkins, almost 10 yards a carry and 2 touchdowns. And then you look at the receiving for Notre Dame, and they have good play. I mean, they have Mitchell Evans, but Jaden Greathouse, obviously the leading guy for Notre Dame when they have to go through the air. But for Ohio State, I mean, Cornell Tate played well. I mean, Quinshon Judkins, he had a touchdown through the air as well. I mean, 3 total touchdowns from him. He played amazing. Abuka played really well. And then Jeremiah Smith, just the best player in college football right now. So
yeah,
it was just unmatched. No one can match up against Ohio State right now. But next year, I think it's going to be a very different story.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I was thinking about Penn State, at least thinking about next year, just because the past 2 national champions have made it to the semifinals or championship and lost, but then they bring back their return, the majority of their roster that was there last year. They have a lot of returning players. They put in those missing pieces, and then they win the national championship. That's what Michigan did that first time. That's what Ohio State did this year because they replaced Kyle McCord with why am I blanking on it? Will Howard. And then Penn State is on track to do the same thing because they have both their star running backs coming back. They have Drew Aller coming back.
Yeah.
Their defensive scheme might look a little bit different because Tom Allen's not going to be there, but that could be a good thing. We don't know.
You never know.
Like sometimes a change in position, like at least in a position coach, offers new formations and can also be positive. Maybe they get along with certain players better, or they're able to bring certain things out of players that, you know, the previous coach could not do. Maybe they get along with Franklin better. Who knows?
I mean, there's no more Tyler Warren, so that's essentially
Yeah.
like 50% of the offense gone right there. I mean, he's a stud. I mean, and he really carried the Lions to where they were. I mean, he played outstanding. I remember the Big Ten championship too. He had a monster day. He played really well, and not even just through the air, like blocking wise too. He's fantastic. So I think whoever gets him. Actually, I've seen a lot of mock drafts that he's going to come here to Indy with the Colts, which would be
please.
very interesting.
Please.
So hopefully.
I mean, listen, Penn State next year, this is a make or break year. They're basically running everything back. They're going to have a chance to either be like the 2024 or 2023, 2024 Michigan team, or what's going to happen is that Drew Aller in the biggest moments is going to turn into a pumpkin again. And that's what happened in the playoff game because they did not complete a pass to a receiver. We talked about that last podcast. I'm sure you knew that, Ethan. Like, you can't just rely on your running backs to win a game. You have to have some other, like, and the game plan has to be different too. That's on James Franklin too. So it's a make or break year for James Franklin. It is at Penn State. And honestly, until they break through, they're just not going to be relevant until that happens, at least on a national stage.
Yeah. I mean, it's still crazy to me that like he's like, it's like going to be a make or break year for him just because of like how consistent he's been at Penn State about just being like just below, below like the top dogs, but like will always bring in like a 10-win season every single year.
Yeah.
But like, he's still on the ropes of like possibly getting fired. It's just crazy to think about. But yeah, no, I agree. I mean, we like for all we know, Drew Aller could be Quinn Ewers 2.0 and just turn into a pumpkin and choke like there's no tomorrow. So yeah. I mean, like because Drew Aller is also he's good on paper, but he also chokes in those big moments. And who else does that? Quinn Ewers. I'm very curious to see where he ends up.
Did you see how he turned down $8 million allegedly $8 million in NIL to declare for the draft?
Yeah, I saw that, and honestly, like he's like pretending that he doesn't know anything about it. I'm like, there's no way you didn't know about it. There's no way that whoever like is managing him doesn't know about it. Like, because like in all the interviews he's been doing, it's like, oh yeah, no, I'm just going to the draft, and it's like more allegations of like the money is coming up, and it's like it's like there's no way that he's not lying. Like he has to be lying. I don't know. That's just my opinion. Like because like $8 million is a lot of money, and if I was him, I would absolutely go back.
I mean,
and
it's
play
more than any
football.
other first-round draft pick.
Yeah, I was gonna say one, it's $8 million. Second of all, he didn't have that. I mean, he had an all right year, but his draft stock could go way higher if he just plays another year of college, which is why I'm happy that Drew Aller is staying because I actually do really like Drew Aller and I think he'll be good next year. But no, yeah, for Quinn Ewers, $8 million down the drain. It's I don't like that decision. I mean, you already have so many quarterbacks that are going to get drafted before you, and just of what Will Howard did, and even possibly Riley Leonard, if you want to even throw him in. There's one of them, at least Will Howard has jumped above you, possibly Riley Leonard because of how well he played. But I don't know. I would have taken that $8 million and ran with it back to whatever university it was, but. It'll be interesting to see how he does in the NFL and where he goes. I'm curious to see where he gets drafted, actually.
Yeah, because I mean, under a bad system, he's going to look really bad if he has to get like thrown in there right away. Like Jaden Daniels had to be thrown in there right away because I mean it's Washington. They were looking for a quarterback. Obviously, they were going to draft a quarterback. He's doing really well actually. Jaden Daniels is killing it right now.
Send him to the Super Bowl.
Send him to the Super Bowl, please. Don't let the Eagles
go to the Giants or like the Jets. He's gonna be screwed. Like he's gonna be done. Like
I wouldn't say the Jets. I mean, if they keep Garrett and Devontae, I think they'll be fine. I mean,
I don't know.
Well,
it's better than the Giants.
Well, the Jets have like a 17-year-old running their GM operations right now.
I will say
using Madden.
Having Aaron Glenn as your head coach now instead of who even was it? Rob Saleh?
Yeah.
Saleh, and then there was another.
I'd rather have Aaron Glenn. So you know what? I don't think it would be a bad starting spot. I think it would be better than the Browns and the Giants because you have two experienced wide receivers and Breece Hall, who's also been on and off. But to have like two guys that can help lead you and catch the passes from you, I think it's better for him to go to the Jets. But I mean, there are other teams, and I think when you look at the quarterbacks that are going to go off the board early, you have Cam Ward, I think will be the number one pick with the Titans. I think Shedeur will likely go 2 to the Browns, depending on what they want to do, whether it's wait out the injury with Deshaun Watson, wait till next year. Or,
what about the Giants?
See, I think if the Browns pick Travis Hunter at 2, I think the Giants will go Shedeur. But I think if not, I think they honestly may trade back because they can get Dart or Will Howard in probably day 2 or day 3.
Oh, yeah.
And with that, point. I think you can go get an edge rusher with Kayvon Thibodeau, with Abdul Carter, again, another Penn State player.
Ooh.
It can get good in there. I think the Giants would go crazy.
Ethan is cooking right now.
And they have neighbors at the wide receiver spot. I mean, hey, get me GM, bro. I got it down for us.
Hey, you're a better GM than the Giants GM. I don't know if you've ever seen those Hard Knocks clips where they're like, oh, should we trade Saquon? I mean, obviously, I think if Saquon stayed on the Giants, I don't think he would have had the success that he's having with the Eagles. Definitely not. But like, it's just funny because then his son's like, hey, you should draft Jaden Daniels.
Yes, I saw
you only
that.
get this job once in your life. Like, make something out of it. And he's like, nah, we're sticking with Danny Dimes. He's a big character. Like, come on, dude. He's a clown. GM's a clown. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, and I really honestly, I really hope that Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders make it to the Super Bowl and win, especially if they go up. I think for the Super Bowl, I think an interesting matchup would be the dynasty, like the Chiefs dynasty right now. They're trying to because they're trying to go for a three-peat and really establish themselves as a dynasty even further versus the new blood of the NFL. It would be, I think that's what they because it feels like they're trying to get the Eagles Chiefs rematch. Honestly, I don't really think that many people are gonna watch that as much as
Jane Daniels, man.
It would be a much more entertaining matchup to watch, I think. I mean, even better than Commanders versus Bills. As much as I want to see Josh Allen in the Super Bowl, I think the best Super Bowl matchup would be Commanders versus the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And I so badly I'm sorry, I keep pausing, but it's because I keep going to about to say Redskins instead of Commanders.
Yeah.
That's just something I do, so I always have to stop for a second.
I mean, if you want an Ohio State story in the NFL, this is the Commanders' time. I mean, they've gone through the gauntlet. I mean, they went to Tampa Bay, they beat the Bucs. They go to Detroit, and probably one of the hardest places to play in the NFL right now. They destroy the Lions. Now they have to go to the worst fans of the NFL in Philly. And then if they win there, they either play Buffalo or Kansas City. And that's whoever that is, if they beat the Eagles, that's going to be a hard game. And that's exactly what Ohio State's go through. And I'm seeing a lot of similarities between the NFL and CFB right now. I mean, I really like the way that CFB kind of has it formatted with the 12-team playoff. I think it worked really well. I think there has to be a couple changes with seeding and scheduling, but I think it works really well, and that the upsets that come aren't really expected. I mean, the one that probably everyone was shocked by was Ohio State beating Oregon, but I mean, a 7 seed versus an 8 seed. I'm not mad about that for CFB, but yeah, no, Jaden Daniels, this is his time. So if you want to be like an Ohio State guy, go ahead. This is your time right now.
I'll tell you what, everyone was talking at the beginning of the year when Jaden Daniels was having success, like, oh, they're running a college offense in Washington. That's the only reason why he's having success. Well, let me tell you something, NFL. If you're running a college offense and your quarterback is playing like that, I think you should just switch your offense to that. Because if you're going to the NFC Championship in your first year as a rookie, and I know like the Commanders, the roster is pretty good, but I'm not going to say it's like one of the best rosters in the NFL. I think it's Jaden Daniels elevating them to a different level.
He's definitely elevating them. Like Washington, they have the 18th ranked defense in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely him that's elevating that team 100%. Like, which is crazy because like you see these other teams, like they all have like I think a top 10 defense, and Jaden Daniels is just chilling with his 17th ranked defense, just going to the NFC Championship.
This is what they imagined RG3 to do for them back in the day, but now it's Jaden Daniels taking it over, and he is delivering results in his first year. And a lot of people said he's injury prone, like he's too slight, he's too small, he doesn't have enough chest, whatever that means. Like,
Ooh.
My bad, y'all.
It's true though. I mean, it's true. I mean, Lamar put on what, like 25 pounds this offseason? Yeah. Like, if he does the same thing, he's gonna be a demon. And the fact that he's made it farther than Lamar ever has, I mean, he's made it to one AFC Championship, but the fact that he made it to the NFC Championship in his rookie season, something that Lamar has not done,
no,
he is going to be a demon in the NFL. I'm excited to see him hopefully beat the Eagles. I would be very happy. I mean, he's already done it once; he could do it again. So
I agree.
Yeah, and I also don't like the Eagles, so I really don't want to see them there.
No.
Partially. Well, did you see what the Eagles did? Like what some of the fans did to like that one Green Bay fan that went to the game?
Oh no!
Like someone like stole his seat or something.
Oh.
And I'm like, that's just so mean. Like he all he could do is just stand there. Like there's like a clip of him online. He's just standing there and he's just staring at the guy and he's like, just all upset. Well, I mean, because they were losing, but still, like they like. That's your seat, like
no. Eagles fans are menaces to society, man. Like they're. It's gonna be tough. I'll tell you what. Him going into that atmosphere, it's not gonna be like the regular season matchup. And they did actually lose the regular season matchup in Philly, but they ended up winning the one in Washington. So they split in the regular season. But at Philly, NFC Championship on the line. That place is nuts. It's like it feels like a college environment. Obviously, I think college environments are better.
Oh yeah.
But it's like these people are crazy over there.
The only person I would be happy for if they won the Super Bowl is Saquon. Because I think getting him out of that dumpster fire at MetLife to now going to a good team where he actually performs really well and serves himself as the best running back in the league, I think he's the only one that really I would be happy for, to be honest. I mean, good for Jalen Hurts, too, because of what he's had to go through between his injuries all year and just everything he's done for the team, because obviously you can't take the credit away from him. Like, even though tush push merchant and he steals a lot of Saquon's touchdowns, and if they didn't have that, what could have been a monstrous Saquon season, I mean, it's not like he didn't have one already, but add a couple more touchdowns and maybe possibly like another 100 yards, he would have broken Eric Dickerson's record for the most rushing yards in the league, which I think that would have been really impressive. And if he played against the Giants, that definitely would have happened, I think.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, that's the only person I would really be happy for. And besides, I think A.J. Brown as well, because going from the Titans, it's still a dumpster fire down there. So now coming to a nice, I guess, atmosphere if you play for the team, it's fun for both of them. So I'd be happy if they both won.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it's kind of, just speaking of dumpster fire teams, I think it's kind of funny that like MetLife has two teams at their stadium and both of them are dumpster fires. I don't know. Maybe that stadium's cursed. I don't know.
Well, and
there's got to be something
injured all the time.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I've seen it bad. Because I used to go to games there sometimes, and it's just terrible. even like walking in, it's just like, what are you looking at? Like it's not great. But
This is inside information.
yeah, once they get good, I think maybe it'll become a little better for fans. But right now, it's not looking great.
You know, and also the Bills are building a stadium too. Speaking of stadiums, you know, I feel like we definitely got off topic with college football. At least we were talking about like draft boards. I kind of want to go back to at least like kind of like the Quinn Ewers thing about like how he should have gone to the stayed in college football. I mean, you see other quarterbacks that are making that decision too. I mean, Carson Beck. I mean, we talked about him earlier. Like he initially declared for the NFL draft, and then he backed out, and now he's going to Miami and he's playing there. I mean, whether it's for money
It ain't
or
for
his girlfriend,
It ain't
or
for his
whatever.
career. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like for him though, I mean, Miami's a solid team like to go to. I mean, for all we know, he could have a breakout year down there. But I mean, I definitely don't think that's why he's going there. But I mean, he's kind of like the antithesis of Quinn Ewers, at least going into this postseason, because Quinn Ewers like probably should stay back, is going to the draft. Carson Beck declared for the draft, decommitted from the draft, and transferred to another team. Like they're going in opposite directions right now, and I'm very curious. I'm curious to see what happens with both of them.
I mean,
if both of them do well, or if both of them do absolutely terrible.
It is kind of cool though, because Quinn Ewers and Carson Beck are on two opposite sides of the coin. Because you have it's basically like the decision that Quinn Ewers is making that to declare for the draft, which Carson Beck actually did declare for the draft. He just went back to college, I guess you can do that. But it's going to be interesting because Carson Beck is taking the route of this is like a once in a lifetime opportunity to get this much money and to be at a good university with probably good players. Coaching wise, that's still yet to be seen because in my opinion, Miami was the Fighting Cam Wards this year. I don't know how good of a team they were actually. But
and girlfriend.
And girlfriend. So it's, I honestly, I don't know what that it seems to me like that was a huge factor. So, I mean, if he gets cheated on, like, I understand it's going to be all on him. So
I hope he does. I mean, that shit really funny.
we're wishing on this man's downfall. Goodness. Okay. I mean, I hope it works out for both of them. But at the end of the day, like, they really are on two opposite sides of the coin. And we're going to see if Quinn Ewers can actually put in the work to become a better quarterback than he was in college, which, by the way, happens all the time.
Yeah.
A lot of college quarterbacks who were mid in college, like Brock Purdy. I mean, Brock Purdy this year did not have the greatest year, but he's been to a Super Bowl. He's been to an NFC Championship. Like, he's, by all standards, a good quarterback in the NFL from that perspective. And it's going to be really interesting to see what Quinn Ewers can do under the right system. And then Carson Beck coming back to just soak it all in, I guess.
Yep, he really wants to embrace his last year. It's weird because we know that he definitely wants to go and be with his girlfriend because it financially benefits him. But at the same time, though, like I feel like he also has to be like kind of hungry to like go and run it back just because of just because Georgia got bounced in the first round, like it just. Like, his team didn't really do too well, and I don't think – it doesn't seem like him and Mike Bobo, the offensive coordinator at Georgia, got along too well. Because I feel like if he decommitted from the draft, if his girlfriend wasn't involved, he would stay at Georgia. Because I feel like him and Kirby at least have a pretty decent relationship, but Mike Bobo this year just was making meh calls on offense. Like, he wasn't really, like, doing – too much to improve their offense, I don't think, or at least like not enough to where it was impactful. Kind of like James Franklin, where it's like, you know, he's there and like he'll have pieces and he can win games he's supposed to win, but you put him in a situation where he's an underdog and he chokes. It's kind of like the same thing with Mike Bobo. It's like if the defense has superior pieces compared to the offense that he has, he's not going to be able to draw up plays to win, or even against like a team like Notre Dame where maybe Georgia like has more manpower than Notre Dame, but Notre Dame just has more spirit than Georgia does in that game. Just because, I mean, they're going in like their leader is down because Carson Beck was gone.
Yeah.
But
I was gonna say too, like in all seriousness, like we could say like he went for his girlfriend, he went for the money, but hypothetically, if he wants to compete for Natty, where else would he really go? Because I think if you want to improve your draft stock, if you want to run it back supposedly and make the playoffs and do everything that Ohio State did this year, what other team are you going to go to that's already contender? Because I feel like besides Ole Miss, because I think Ole Miss also would have been a good spot, but
That would have been a great spot.
oh yeah, I agree.
and like besides Miami, I think it really kind of just like lined up for him because you have a couple other schools that are in the mix, but I think when you look at teams overall, I think Miami is probably the best team for him to go to in terms of wanting to be successful, wanting to get his name out there, and hopefully improving his draft stock. Because I don't really know that many quarterbacks that are going to declare for the draft next year. Besides Drew Aller probably, which I'll be interested in seeing where he goes. But I think it's good for him to stay back because not being able to play in the Sugar Bowl and kind of get his name out there and see what he does in a high intense game atmosphere like they play in the SEC. It's being on a competitive ACC team and getting a different conference under his belt and seeing everything. I think it'll be better for him.
Yeah, and I think another quarterback that I just thought of that's probably going to be in the draft next year is Cade Klubnik. I think he has one more year of eligibility, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right.
Because I know he was, I think it was like his third year as a quarterback for Clemson this year, and I think this coming year is going to be his final one. But ACC could very well have two spots in this playoff next year if everything goes well for all those teams, if the conference doesn't completely self-destruct next year. Because, I mean, Clemson, they're actually utilizing the transfer portal now, and they brought in Tom Allen, who might improve their defense. And Miami now has Carson Beck, and I think they still have, like, their main wide receiver core there as well. So, in SMU, because I think they still have their quarterback that's going to stay as well. I'm blanking on his name right now. But I think, Jennings. He's going to be staying another year. So I think ACC, if they like play out, which is not what they did this year, but if they play out, they could maybe have 3 playoff spots, and we could maybe. And I mean, honestly, I feel like the SEC next year is starting to set up for another kind of self-destruction, except I feel like it's going to be bigger because I feel like there's even more teams in the SEC that are kind of like they've gotten a little like slightly better, and some have gotten slightly worse. Like I feel like Georgia's gotten slightly worse, Florida's gotten slightly better, South Carolina's kind of stayed the same.
So you're saying they're all going to beat up on each other?
Yeah, I think they're all going to beat up on each other, but I think it's going to like just because the ACC and I think the Big 12 is going to be a little bit more stable because I think Colorado and Arizona State and maybe Iowa State, I think Iowa State could maybe put themselves in this mix too, are going to be like those 3 big dogs in that conference that are going to have good records and like just good standing. And Big 10, I think, is going to have 4 again. So I think SEC might just have 2. We'll see.
Go ahead.
No. Stay on the point because I'm going to switch topics.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was good. Yeah, I think it'll be very interesting too because I want to see who wins each conference as well because I think Boise may be back again next year as well, taking the Mountain or the G5 spot.
Oh yeah,
but I think I mean we've seen it now that the Big Ten they run football for right now. I mean we've seen back-to-back Big Ten champions between OSU and then Michigan the year before. I think it'll be very interesting, and I agree with Joseph and Ryan, both of you. Just what like the SEC they beat up on each other because everyone is so. Not everyone, but like most people are evenly matched to the point where they're just beating each other to the point where you can't rank them since they'll all have 2-3 losses. It gives other teams a shot like we saw this year with an SMU, with an Indiana, with a Boise, with a ASU, that they can kind of slide in and take those spots away from those powerhouses that we would generally see in a 14 playoff format. Because if we were stuck with that 14 playoff format, we would still see, again, we would see the Oregons. We would see the Texases possibly. We would see the Georgia. Like we would see everything that we would normally see with these big powerhouse SEC teams. But the fact that you have 12 teams now and you have the SEC, which is so like evenly matched, it's harder for those teams to make it in unless you're winning every single game because everyone's just beating each other and you don't know how to rank them. So you have to rank them below all these other conference teams like the Indianas and like the SMUs.
Yeah, I agree. The SEC is always going to be like is at this point in the NIL era is going to be equally solid to each other, and they're all solid squads. They're going to beat up on each other, and some of them may think it's not fair. Some of them may think that they're not going to make the playoff, and it's because we're in the toughest conference or whatever. At the end of the day, you can always leave your conference. At this point, we've seen it multiple times from multiple different teams. So if you want easier competition, you can go somewhere else if you think it's going to be easier competition.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, because sometimes it's not. If you go to the Big Ten, in my opinion, I think it's going to be maybe you win like one more game, if that even. Maybe you lose it, depending on your Big Ten schedule.
Actually,
maybe you lose more.
I'd argue that they would lose one more game because in the SEC, they still have it set up where they play one less in-conference game than all the other conferences. So I think if they were to move to like the Big Ten, they would be taking on another loss, depending on, I mean, like you said, depending on their schedule. Because we did kind of get a little bit lucky playing like some of the teams that we played on the Big Ten. But like this coming year, we're gonna be battle tested next year for sure. I mean, Iowa's good again. Illinois is still gonna be good next year. Oregon's like always good. Penn State is going to be good. Like we have at least 4 top 25 teams that we're going to be playing this year. Like 100%. Like it's our schedule. Like this is what our schedule should have felt like this year, where it was like because we were going up against the the former national champions, the former national runners up, like Ohio State. Like it was supposed to be like insanely hard, and then we just kind of like we only took one loss to Ohio State, and then now we've got this battle tested. Now we're going to be battle tested, but we're going to have year 2 under Sig, new quarterback like from the transfer portal. We're keeping our wide receivers mostly.
Our defense too.
Our defense is staying. We picked up good O linemen to help like put in more pieces there that are leaving.
Yep.
Like we're going to have a new coaching hire with the we talked about it in a previous episode. I think it was the quarterbacks coach and was it? I think it was offensive coordinator.
Offensive coordinator.
Yeah. Because he went to UCLA. But like there's going to be some new pieces in there, and I think if it gels together, I think we should get like the same record, and then finally we'll like get past the accusations of being fraudulent.
I did want to bring up something that this is why I had my phone out. Like, I don't know if you guys saw this, but a major like NCAA designated major selector actually picked like Oregon as a national champion. I guess there's like different selectors to be a national champion. I guess some people still go by like old systems or whatever. And Oregon, technically, like from that sector specifically, is a 2024 national champion. Now, Oregon, they did not claim the title because they asked the school, do you want this title from this selector? And they're like, no, that's stupid. Yeah. But it is kind of funny that is even a thing. I don't know. Just bizarre to me that that's even possible. Like, what are we doing, NCAA? Like, how is that possible?
I don't know. I mean, either way, it's still a championship for the Big Ten, so.
Yeah, literally. I mean, anything to keep the Big Ten as the #1 football conference, so I'm glad. But I would have loved to see not Ohio State win. I would have rather seen Texas. But
so, some of these fans are a little out of control, Ohio State fans. I saw something where someone said this is the best college football team ever. And I'm like, what? What?
I don't know if I'd go that far.
I could tell because of how fast they broke into their field. I don't know if you guys saw on like Instagram or something. They all broke into their stadium and was just like they planted a flag
on
the O. It was so funny. All the students they pulled the gates until it opened, and all of them ran all in. They just bypassed security because they couldn't stop like 500 kids. They all ran in, stormed the field. It was so funny.
I need to see a video of that. But like the fact that they're saying like some people are saying that this is the best team ever, that is That cannot be further from the truth. Like going the 2019 LSU team, I'd take them over anyone. Who is your guys'?
Oh no,
It has to
mine
be.
Like-
is 2019 LSU as well. I
Okay,
mean, they have like the best players right now in the NFL,
Yeah.
arguably. Like, well, I don't even know if it's arguably. I mean,
They have the best 2 receivers in the NFL.
yeah.
I mean, there's no debating that.
Yeah.
And Joe Burrow, top 5 QB.
Yeah.
Top,
Yeah.
top 3.
top 3.
So
You put in Joe Burrow over Lamar and Mahomes and Josh Allen.
I'd put currently no, I'd put Mahomes 1, but
After this year, I don't know.
I mean,
he doesn't
Mahomes is
like- he
Mahomes.
doesn't
Like,
like Mahomes over there.
Maybe
look at
maybe I
this.
don't- Well, I think this year at least he definitely has not performed as the best quarterback
No,
this year.
no,
Statistically,
absolutely
no.
not. No.
Even just like in game, no.
No.
But I also low-key have kind of lost respect for him after the did you guys watch
The
any
flop?
of the Houston
Yeah,
like
flop.
Yeah, no, the flopping? That's ridiculous. This isn't the NBA. This isn't like
This is
like,
football, man.
No, this is football. Like this is not the NBA where you
So-
can just flop on the floor like LeBron James or like like any of those other NBA players. This is not. No. I forbid it. I forbid it.
he is a 3-time champ at
if-
age 29.
if-
You can't take anything away
If
from him.
Patrick Mahomes three-peats, is he the best quarterback in the league?
No.
If he three-peats, Mahomes is not the best quarterback in the league.
It's Brady.
No,
Or-
I agree.
like
I
in the
agree.
league.
Oh,
Sorry.
yes,
Okay,
yes,
okay.
yes,
Sorry.
yes.
I didn't mean all time.
No,
I didn't mean all time.
yes. He's
Wait, how many Super Bowls is it going to take for Mahomes to pass
8.
Brady?
8.
8? Not 7?
Well, actually, yeah. I mean, that makes sense because I mean that's one more Super Bowl than Tom Brady got.
And I think a lot of people
But-
hold it over Mahomes' head
Yeah.
that he lost to Brady.
If it was 7, then that 8th would have been beating Brady.
Yeah.
And it's not like that Super Bowl was close either. It was like 31-9.
Yeah, but the
Yeah.
Chiefs' entire offensive line was like out. Like, and Mahomes was running for his life, and he was hitting players in the face like with the ball, and they just wouldn't catch it. I don't know. It was like that was just a perfect circumstance here too. Like,
Yeah.
for the Bucks.
I mean, if anything, if they did three-peat, I feel like that would just establish the Chiefs as the strongest the best dynasty of all time.
1,000%.
I don't necessarily think it would make Mahomes the greatest quarterback of all time because he could like have the worst performance ever in the Super Bowl, but like the defense could still carry them to a win.
Yeah.
Just because their defense is so good.
I mean, I think he'll end up the second best quarterback of all time. I mean, I think
Is he already there? I think he's already there.
I'd consider it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think so too.
how many times do you see this 3-time Super Bowl champion before they hit 30 years old? I
No,
mean,
not very
really,
many.
never.
Brady.
It's just crazy how
It's him and
Brady
Brady.
handed him his first loss, playoff loss, and Super Bowl loss.
Mm,
That's nuts.
yeah, it's very true. Wait, if Lamar wins 2 Super Bowls, Lamar or Peyton Manning.
Peyton.
Oh, I'm still taking Peyton Manning.
For
Still
now.
taking Peyton
For
Manning.
now.
Well, yeah, for
now.
now.
No. Wait, is Lamar winning MVP this year?
Yes, he should.
I don't know. I mean, because they haven't completed the
I-
vote yet, but I feel like it was between him and Josh Allen,
Yeah.
and I think that game is probably going to have impact on that vote since Josh Allen did come out.
It is
on
a
top
regular
there,
season
so-
award, though.
It's a regular season
Yeah,
award, and the
yeah.
fact that he was voted first team AP All Pro,
Oh yeah.
what makes you switch to that? Because the regular season's already over by the time
Yeah.
it ends. So it's just kind of like, what's making you take it away from Lamar when you already had voted him?
Okay, because
I don't know.
the voter, I think honestly, because Vegas already has like the lock on Lamar, I'm pretty sure.
Mhm.
So let's not like include like the favorites or the voters in this. What do you guys think? Do you think Lamar or Josh Allen, just based on what you've seen this year?
I mean, I think Josh Allen. I'm not even going to lie, and it's partially just because, I mean, Lamar has like Zay Flowers and he has Derrick Henry to kind of ease up the run game a little
Yeah.
bit. And Josh Allen, like I think this is his first or second year without like a like true wide receiver 1, but he was still putting up like
Insane
equivalent,
stats,
like just insane stats. So I mean, this is that Bills roster was a roster that was
I
told
understand.
that was like they were told like all year that they were horrible, they're nothing, they're not going to do anything, and Josh Allen like helped carry them to the AFC Championship game. So I feel like that's part of the reason why I think the postseason like should kind of have some weight, but like I feel like Josh Allen, like just this year, I think Josh Allen has like played. This is his best year, I think, too. I think this is probably the best Josh Allen has played. which is funny because he doesn't have Stephon Diggs. But
The only reason why I'm going to take Lamar is because of the divisions that they're both in.
Oh, that's a good point.
I think
It's a
when you
great
have two really other, because you play each team twice.
yeah.
I'm going to exclude the Browns. If you have two other,
they lost the Browns this year.
yeah, they did actually.
Yeah.
But when you look at, one other, it should have been two other playoff teams with the Bengals. But when you have both the Steelers and the Bengals, you're playing them twice in the year, and you're still able to win the division compared to Josh Allen having to play the Jets, who were terrible, Patriots, who were terrible, trying to get used to Drake May, and the Dolphins, who have just been all over the place between Tua's injuries, Tyreek Hill wanting to leave. They've just been completely out of the window. So I think the fact that he's had 6 chances to play against teams that are not playoff teams whatsoever, I think it's easier for me to give it to Lamar, who's had to go through a tougher test between the Steelers and, first of all, playing in Pittsburgh. That's a really tough place to play.
Oh, yeah.
And then Cincy, having to play them twice again, and also in Cincy once. It's another really hard place to play. That's the only reason I'm giving it to Lamar, though.
Yeah, if I had to choose one, I think Lamar, just because I've seen him sustain the success for so long in Baltimore. I've seen him win 2 MVPs. I feel like their whole offense is tailored around Lamar. This was like one of the only years that I feel like they actually were able to give Derrick Henry a shot. And also Lamar's like receivers, like Zay Flowers was great this year, but I don't think Zay Flowers, he didn't play in the playoff game.
No,
I don't think.
I think he might have been injured.
I think
Now that you mention it,
Yeah, he's been injured.
I think Mark Andrews low-key choked that away
Oh my
for them.
gosh.
Oh my
The
goodness!
drop.
But yeah,
The drop, dude.
the drop.
That was heartbreaking.
That's so
dude.
tragic. Lamar kind of reminds me of Peyton Manning, like from the career trajectory, where he loses a lot of playoff games, but he's like regular season, he just puts up insane stats where you're just like, whoa. It kind of reminds me of James Harden, like 2018, 2019 James Harden.
Yeah, like where James Harden gets to the playoffs and all of a sudden he forgets how to shoot a 3.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Obviously, I don't think Lamar's like letdowns have been as big because it's not like the Ravens are getting blown out in those games or anything like that.
It's just they're so close.
They're so close. They're right there. I think Lamar is gonna break through soon, within the next 2 years, hopefully.
I hope he does. He deserves it. And the fact that he is now teammates with a player that knocked him out of the playoffs in one of his other seasons with Derrick Henry when the Titans upset the Ravens when they were the 1 seed a few years ago. I think he'll get it at some point. Because usually for their offense, it's centered around Derrick Henry for whatever team he's on.
Yep.
The fact that Lamar was able to kind of keep a fair share of that and be productive with those rush attempts, that's kind of really what seals it for me, because he was still able to spread the rock, even with Derrick Henry, who's just hard runner, gets 20-plus carries a game. He was able to still be very successful with him.
Yeah, honestly, I think this is a good stopping point for today. I don't know about you guys.
No.
We went like all over the place when it came to football.
This was about football.
Yeah,
man.
no, we went all over the place. But I guess, we could we could honestly stay with NFL if you guys want, just because, Hoosier basketball has been kind of a letdown lately. I don't know about you guys. It's been so hard to watch us play.
They play in 40 minutes. So
yeah,
we'll see how they do
we're going to have the Super Bowl is coming up. Like, we're going to have the NFC and AFC championship games and then the Super Bowl. We could just kind of go into that next week. What do you guys think?
That's fine.
Yeah, perfect.
Next few weeks, we'll just stick to NFL. That's fine.
All right, awesome. So we'll see you guys all next week on Monday.